Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. I'm back home today after hosting Charlie Kirk's show yesterday in Arizona. An experience that was emotional and honestly, it was cathartic. I think it was cathartic for me, and I think some of the folks at Turning Point felt that way, just that we had the chance to sit around Charlie's desk and share some fun stories about him. You know, it was, of all the dark days since he died, that was less dark, right? Because we had the chance to sit around and remember what we loved about him and some of the silly things about him. And I learned a lot about him that I didn't know. And anyway, it was an important trip for me personally. And I loved meeting his staff. The organization is in great hands. Erica can do this. And that staff, hand-selected by Charlie, can do it with her. So we're good. We're all going to have to chip in and help, but we're good. We are going to talk about Charlie's life and legacy today ahead of his memorial service on Sunday, which will be held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. That's home of the Arizona NFL team, and we're going to do that in our second hour. A really special man is joining us, an advisor, a friend, a mentor to Charlie, who was with him when he died. And he'll walk us through their relationship, what this means, a man of faith, and what he saw. And we've also got some new details about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air for his ghoulish remarks about Charlie's death and MAGA supporters. And I'm just going to tee that up for you. Steve Bannon is going to join us in a minute. He'll be here in a couple of minutes, but let me just tell you the latest on what's happening. So the reports broke last night mostly that there were multiple reasons why Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air, but chief among them was not only was he not planning on apologizing when he was going to go back out on his show Wednesday evening, he was planning on attacking MAGA, attacking. My words are being purposefully twisted, he was planning on saying, per a report in the Wall Street Journal. See, it's our fault that we didn't understand that really he was supposed to be super supportive of MAGA. He wasn't pointing the finger at MAGA. Just a reminder for those of you who hadn't heard them, here's what he said on Monday night that caused the trouble. Sat one.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Unbelievable. I mean, like every word there was untrue. Like literally every word he said was false and an intentional smear. And the shooter had nothing whatsoever to do with MAGA, which he knew. And I'll tell you how I know he knew. Jimmy Kimmel has made perfectly clear in the past that he's factual. He's super factual. Is this a SOT, guys, or is this just a quote? But he got into his own little dispute with Aaron Rodgers, the football player, who had suggested Jimmy Kimmel might be on the Epstein list. And Jimmy Kimmel was very upset about that allegation. And Jimmy Kimmel went out on his show and said the following in January of 2024.
He decided to insinuate that I am a pedophile. This is how these nuts do it now. You don't like Trump, you're a pedophile. It's their go-to move. And it shows you how much they actually care about pedophilia. And as far as the, well, you say things about people all the time argument goes, yes, I do. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same. We say a lot of things on this show. We don't make up lies. In fact, we have a team of people who work very hard to sift through facts and reputable sources before I make a joke. And that's an important distinction because the truth still matters. And when I do get something wrong, which happens on rare occasions, you know what I do? I apologize for it, which is what Aaron Rodgers should do, which is what a decent person would do.
So he is what we would call in the law a fucking liar because he says he has a team of fact checkers that don't allow him to say lies and that if he errs, he'll go out there and apologize and clear it up. But he was entirely wrong in trying to blame this shooting on MAGA and saying this shooter was affiliated with MAGA or one of theirs, and he knew it. And the reason I know he knew it is because he says he has a team of researchers that researches every fact before he says it on his show. And what we knew as of Monday night was that this shooter Well, yes, he had Republican parents. Do your parents, does their party registration dictate what you're going to be? Oh, if only. If only. No. That what matters is what were his politics. That's what we're looking for here, and most specifically his motive. We know that this was a unaffiliated voter. That's how he was registered, this shooter. We knew that his own mother said that he had gone leftward. We didn't yet have the mother saying he had latched on to pro-gay and pro-trans ideology. That came another day later. Fine. But we knew that he was living with somebody who is transitioning male to female, that he, Tyler, was into, quote, furry culture, that the man he's living with was also dressed like a, quote, furry, with it, which is an anthropomorphic, human/animal type character that people have weird sexual fetishes around. Don't go there. It's closely linked to the trans community. That's what you need to know. We know that the Utah governor had said he was driven by leftist ideology. We know that the bullet casings had leftist messages on them, like anti-fascist catch, here fascist catch, an anti-fascist song, and the notices bulges, OWO, which is another, it's a reference to furry culture. Once again, all of that, of course, spells leftist to anybody with eyes and ears and a brain. And by the way, we didn't even have to go that far. All you needed to know was that Charlie Kirk got shot at one of the Charlie Kirk events. And you knew it was someone who hated Charlie Kirk because of his politics. That was obvious. Only leftists trying to deny any connection to the shooter or his ideology or what infected his mind would deny that. So he knew. He knew because he had his team of fact checkers who knew all the things I just said, because I know them, and I too am into facts. And I learned them from the same news sources he had access to, or his fact checkers did, which is how I know it was an intentional lie that he told on the air on Monday night. And the other reason I know it was an intentional lie was by the time we got into Tuesday, we did hear from the mother. We saw the indictment. We saw all of the things that were alleged at that press conference, specifically with the mother saying leftist ideology, the gay thing, the trans thing, which we knew was just more evidence, but whatever. It got even more airtight. And here's what he did on Tuesday night. On Tuesday night, already the controversy had blown up. And what did he say? Did he go out Tuesday night to apologize, to say, I got it wrong, let me correct it? Well, let's listen in. SOT 2.
Well, many in MAGA land are working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk. The president and his henchmen are doing their best to fan the flames so they can, I guess, attack people on the dangerous left. Which is it? Are they a bunch of sissy pickleball players because they're too scared to get hit by tennis balls, or a well-organized, deadly team of commandos? Because they can't be both of those things.
Unfortunately, it can, and it is. You have a super big tent for wackos over there on the left. Jimmy, you do have weak-kneed, soy boy, skater, scooter types who, would much more likely be on the pickle court than the tennis court, but there's nothing wrong with pickle. And then you do have the Antifa types, and you have the radical types who absolutely would take a gun, lie down on a rooftop, and try to kill the next president of the United States. And by the way, that description applies both to Trump and to Charlie. Everyone knows Charlie was going to be president one day. You could see it just upon shaking the man's hand. It's your side, Jimmy, that does that. Yeah. And it's your side that's feminizing men right out of their non-toxic masculinity, out of their masculinity, period. So that was his message on Tuesday night. Tuesday night, he's still attacking MAGA as working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk. We want to we're in mourning, you fucking asshole. We're not capitalizing on the death of Charlie. We're in mourning. You leftist losers are out there trying to blame us for his death, trying to disparage his legacy, and we're trying to correct you, and we're trying to correct the record. And for once, we're fighting back. That's what you're talking about. You're just not used to it. You've crossed a line that we're not willing to let you cross without a fight. We usually blow you lunatics off as a fringe who we can't even respond to rationally. But it's beyond that now. So we get to Wednesday, and Disney and ABC are now in meltdown because, according to The Hollywood Reporter, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, the phone lines were ringing off the hooks. both at ABC, at Disney, which owns ABC, of course, and at the affiliates, right? Because you've got the big ABC, like the headquarters where they make Good Morning America and all that. And then they have affiliates across the nation that bring you local news and so on. And they carry the ABC programming. They don't produce it. They kind of get it because they're ABC programs. And they have independent obligations under the law when it comes to the FCC and independent standards of taste and so on. And their phone lines were getting burned up too. And so they were upset. They too are feeling the vibe shift that we felt since Trump's election. And they've had it with this nonstop pinko commie leftist programming up and down their airwaves. From The View in the morning straight through to Kimmel in the evening. And don't even get me started on David Muir. And then you had Brendan Carr go on Benny Johnson's podcast and say, enough is enough. Like, these affiliates actually do need to take seriously their obligation of protecting the public interest when they decide what goes on their airwaves, and they should stand up. It was him saying, look, we can do this the hard way or we can do this the easy way, which sounded like I will get involved if I have to, but he hadn't yet. He had used words saying hard way, easy way, we'll see. And then they all started calling ABC saying, we're out. We do not want Jimmy Kimmel. We're out. We're not airing him tonight. Yes, there was the one group, Nexstar, which does have a merger that it needs FCC approval on. Got it. But then came Sinclair. They don't have a merger. They felt exactly as Nexstar did. We don't want him. And we certainly don't want him going back out there. Now we find out. And not only tripling down on the message, but turning it into yet another attack on MAGA. He was going to attack MAGA again. He was going to go out there and say, my words are being purposefully twisted by MAGA. Here's how Elizabeth Wagmeister, reporter on CNN, described his plan.
Jimmy wanted to go on his show last night, and in his monologue, I hear that he wanted to address the backlash from the right regarding his commentary about Charlie Kirk's charged killer. And I hear that monologue was very hot. It very much took aim at MAGA, and that is when the executives said, we can't have him go on the air tonight.
Yeah, so Disney pulled the plug. They called Jimmy. They had been speaking to him for hours saying, could you please tone it down, you complete loser? Those are my words. And he wouldn't. So you know what? They said, you don't own ABC, you don't own Disney, and we are indefinitely suspending you until you can get your shit back together. He's not fired. We actually don't know how this is going to end. And that is the series of events that has led to the leftist meltdown now. And literally T-shirts, we're all Jimmy Kimmel. I am Jimmy Kimmel. As though they've lost, like Charlie, they're actually equating their loss of Jimmy Kimmel on his loser show, which no one watched, to our loss of Charlie Kirk. These people are sick. And no one knows that better than Steve Bannon. He's host of Steve Bannon's War Room. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to 10 grand. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Steve, welcome back. What do you make of it all?
Thanks, Megyn. Well, I think it's typical. This is why I say, we're kind of at a civil war here, and we're the peaceful ones that want to do it through political power. They're the vital ones, and there's no area to compromise. I mean, you can just see what's happened this week. And remember, Kimmel And I think Ellison at CBS ought to pull. They've already fired him, but they ought to pull Colbert off the network right away. And I think we have to get more aggressive at the federal government level, at the Election Commission. I would argue that Colbert and Kimmel are essentially in-kind payments to the Democrat Party. Colbert is bad as Kimmel. And if you think about it, he loses. Megyn, think about it a second. You've done TV for so long. The Steve Colbert show costs $100 million a year to produce it. They take in 60 in revenue. They lose 40. I would say that $40 million is a donation, an in-kind donation to the Democrat Party, because these guys are political operatives. They're political messaging. This is not humor. This is not being cute or funny. There was nothing that Kimmel said. That's what Brendan Carr said. Now, the power of the MAGA movement and to continue to burn the phone lines up, not just at corporate, but at your local TV station, is the affiliates, particularly Dave Smith and the guys over there that are not doing a merger. He's already done a consolidation. Remember, the affiliates make their money from the local tire ads and the car dealerships and the gardening groups and the florists and the people like the Orkin people coming to your house. All those local spots really add up for the affiliates. And when people are saying, no, you're not going to attack half the nation or 55% of the nation, this is capitalism at work. It's kind of the reason Howard Stern's on the ropes. These guys are all woke, and they are more than just liberals from the past or progressives from the past. They push this neo-Marxism of Herbert Marcuse, which, Andrew Breitbart was so brilliant and explained to us, the Frankfurt School. And you've got, critical theory, critical race theory. Now, was it queer theory? It's destroying the substrate of our society and our culture. It's embedded in the schools. It's what these kids are taught from kindergarten on. I would actually argue that Weingarten, these people are almost domestic terrorists themselves, and what they're doing and forming. And essentially, they've turned these schools into a neo-Marxist madrasa. And that's what you're seeing when you look at, when you look at what's happening with the alleged shooter and his boyfriend and all that. It's sick and depraved beyond, comprehension. And it's got to be stopped. And the only way we're going to stop it, it's not debating. It's not, Charlie Kirk did that and changed the direction of this country, and they shot him in cold blood and killed him because he was a voice of reason. So it's now time for the Megyn Kellys and the Steve Bannons of the world, who are the voice of not reason, right? We're not reasonable people. We don't pretend to be reasonable. We want victory. We'll unify and have a group hug. After we win, on our terms, we'll have the group hug. Not until that moment.
Yeah. I want to tell the audience that some on the left are trying to get Perry Sook, who's the head of Nexstar Media Group, again, that went to Disney and said, we're not airing Jimmy Kimmel. We're not doing it. He's trying to get this guy harassed to the point where he stands down. I know Perry Sook. He's a good man. He should not be harassed. I urge you to call this number, which they're distributing through leftist media to try to harass him, and tell them how much we support what Perry did. We stand with Perry. We do not want Kimmel back. The number's 972-373-8800. 972-373-8800. Let them know that you support their decision. We don't want Jimmy Kimmel. We don't want someone who's smearing and endangering MAGA with vile lies on the air every night. And then when called to his attention, tripling down over and over, notwithstanding the threats. He doesn't care about us, and Jimmy Kimmel, that is, and we should enforce this guy, that we have his back, that we will keep watching Nexstar, because they did take a principled stand. You mentioned Colbert. Here's what he said. There's something very interesting in this soundbite. Listen here, SOT 11.
Tonight, we are all Jimmy Kimmel. Yesterday, after threats from Trump's FCC chair, ABC yanked Kimmel off the air indefinitely. That is blatant censorship. But with an autocrat, you cannot give an inch. Carr went on a podcast yesterday afternoon and described Jimmy's comments as the sickest conduct possible. Wow, those are strong words. I mean, Jimmy must have really been off the rails. I mean, completely out of control, truly psychotic. Let's see what he said.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving.
Is that the clip? Really? Because that's just Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, given the FCC's response, I was expecting something more, provocative. That's like hearing that Playboy has a racy new centerfold and finding out it's just Jimmy Kimmel.
I totally agree with him. That is just Jimmy Kimmel. That's the problem, Steve.
Nailed it. You nailed it. That's it right there. You said the quiet part out loud. That's what Kimmel and he's been doing. This is why I say, Megyn, it's an in-kind donation to the Democratic Party. The FEC ought to bring a massive lawsuit. I calculate back of the envelope that Colbert is a $400 million minimum contribution to the Democratic Party, night after night after night after night. Kimmel's the same way. I'll do the same thing. Let's just go for it. We cannot have half measures right now. We have to have a maximalist strategy, move with a sense of urgency, and understand we have to seize the institutions. If we're to save this country, and I will tell you, with President Trump in the greatest comeback in history, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, it's still a pretty dark night. Given everything President Trump's done, we're still in a very dark night right now. You can't see the sun, you can't see the dawn, and you certainly can't see the sunlit uplands. And so we have to fight harder than ever right now. And as I said when Charlie invited me to the Tampa Student Action Summit, and I gave the speech on taking down the administrative and the deep state, right? I call them the Tampa Resolves. The last one was, who's not with us is against us, right? And so right now, if you're just not cut out for this, that's fine. I have no problem. You have to do what your own conscience says. But you see the nonviolence that we have, no burning of buildings, no riots in the streets, nothing. But we must maximize political power right now while we have the opportunity. And that's why we have to have a maximalist strategy, and you have to throw the book at them. They need to be sued, and they need to be run off. Ellison should pull Colbert tonight from CBS for his arrogance and his hate. If you want to take the temperature down, start by that. And let's see if you want to de-escalate over there, because we ain't de-escalating. We're only going to crank it up.
Send a signal to us that you get it, that we've actually been heard. And if ABC puts Kimmel back on the air now, I mean, is there any chance you think that they would actually do that, Steve? Because I think there'll be a revolt even greater than the first one if they do.
I think you're going to see the creatives over Disney. Remember, look, Disney is rotten to the core anyway. You know what's happened over Disney. You know what's happened in the filmmaking division, where they've been perpetuating this LGBTQ and this really sick transgender ideology into their movies. They're going to get huge pressure creatively. I think they're going to try to come back, Megyn, with some sort of, Jimmy gives some sort of lame apology and make some donation at Turning Point. Turning Point should turn down any donation Jimmy Kimmel tries to give you. And there is no apology good enough. There's no apology good enough. But I think they're going to try to do something to get him back up there. And I think you see everything you want. And I'm so glad you put that number out. The CEO, they're trying to drive the CEO of one of these big affiliate groups, a guy that's just a normal business guy and do what business guys do in free market capitalism. They're trying to drive him. And by the way, I'm sure it's dangerous around his family. This is what they try to do. So, no.
Let him know we love him.
We're in a fight
Let
right
him
now.
know we've got his back. We will continue watching Next Star. The left does not control this country. It's a new day. And there's a reason Trump won and Kamala lost. We're in the majority. It's too bad, but we are. And they can't keep canceling our people and then letting their people get away with murder, literally with murder. There is a piece, Mark Halperin on his show called attention to this, and it was a great point. It was something I didn't know. You mentioned Ellison. So they're taking over CBS News and maybe bringing in Barry Weiss to try to be like a non-woke voice of reason in there, overseeing editorial. That would be a step definitely in the right direction. Then there's a possibility that there's some talk about Ellison possibly even buying CNN and doing the same thing there. So this guy, Dan Pfeiffer, who used to work for Obama, he's part of the Pod Save America guys. He has a Substack, and Mark Halperin was writing about it and talking about it. And on this guy's Substack, this is a former Obama guy, he's worried. He's pearl clutching over there about the fact that now you have, possibly a de-wokeifier at CBS, potentially in the future at CNN. And on top of all that, you've got Trump trying to save TikTok in a way that would wrest it from Chinese control and possibly make it more reasonable and, God forbid, even more open-minded to conservatives, because right now it is a far-left site. And he's very worried about that, Steve, and he writes as follows. Well, the MAGA right is on the verge of controlling the vast majority of the American media ecosystem. There are exceptions, but much of the corporate press is now too loyal to or too afraid of Trump to act as a true check on power. Yes, what would that be like to have an entire media controlled by the same party that controls the White House and acting as a bunch of sycophants in service of him? I mean, like the obtuse statement, like the cluelessness of this.
It absolutely is because of what they've done for decade after decade after decade. That being said, I'm a hardcore neo-Brandeisian. I'm a huge believer in Lena Khan and what the FCC, the FTC, what these antitrust really fire breathers and Trump's Justice Department trying to break up Google, trying to break up Facebook. I actually am quite concerned. I am concerned with, and Larry Ellison is a great guy. Oracle's done a great job what they're doing, but to know that they're trying to buy Warner Brothers immediately after closing a quite difficult transaction, they're trying to buy Warner Brothers and CNN is, I think it has to be questioned. And then on top of it, TikTok. Remember, what we want to have is a system of actual free market capitalism. We don't have that today. The United States has corporatism. Our model, the Chinese communists, the Chinese did not become liberal Democrats, liberal free market Democrats. They became, in the broadest sense, we became more like their model, state capitalism, or what I call corporatism. And the concentration of power, and you see this every day. The one thing I tell people is different than the first administration, right? The second is that we have the greatest concentration of power under Biden in media, on Wall Street, and big pharma, and big medical, and the big tech oligarchs, in the defense industry. Though that power in Washington, trying to have regulatory merger, right, is something that we as MAGA and a populist nationalist movement have to be worried about all the time. And so I love the fact that conservatives are now coming and we're giving them a little taste of what they've had for years and loved it, and the reason they're suppressing it. But we have to
spare me the, it would be so hard if the other party controlled media while they control the White House. Welcome to our world. We've been living like this for 50 years.
Yes, and particularly fight for Obama. But we, as populists, always have to be on guard for the concentration of corporate and state power. That's something we're going to, and that's a fight that's internal to MAGA and the Trump administration. And I think that fight's going to get very big coming next year and up to the midterms.
That makes sense. Let me ask you this. The other piece of this is like the leftist meltdown around the Jimmy Kimmel indefinite suspension. I mean, it hasn't even been fired, is really at 10 out of 10. Like I said at the top, they actually are pretending that this is as serious and as big an event as what happened to Charlie. It's very strange. It's like weird trauma glomming. And,
Megyn, I think it's a 12 out of 10. I think it's a 12 out of 10. I've never seen anything like it. This morning on Morning Joe and CNN, it's full coverage. Everything else going in the world, not important. They are literally, because I think they see the fact they can be fired.
Would it be this high if we hadn't just lost Charlie? Because they're scared. They know how angry we are. They know how mobilized and motivated we are. And is it a direct reaction to that? Would it be at a 12 if we hadn't just lost Charlie, clearly at the hands of somebody infected with left-wing ideology? Or is this just because, as you say, now they're worried they could actually lose their jobs?
I think normally it would be a 7 or 8, maybe a 9. I think it's 12. And the reason is they see the self-organizing nature of the commemorations of Charlie's, the death and the vigils, but also the determination of these young people to carry on his work. And I think they see the streets of Korea. They are scared to death because I think for the first time they see that there has been someone that actually made not just a political difference, but a deep cultural difference. I think that's got them scared to death. And I think they feel if they don't put this down now, that if President Trump and the regulators go after him, and also the free market capitals like the affiliate groups start responding to the consumers in their local communities where most of this is happening, right? Because remember, in the affiliates, the owned and operated are New York, Chicago, LA, you know this. The affiliates are really out in the heartland of the country, right? The smaller stations. If they see this happening, they think that's a revolution. They think the barbarians have actually breached the gate. And so that's why they have to put it down now. I think this self-organizing response to Charlie's death has been something that I don't believe it's ever happened in American history. It didn't happen in Kennedy. Didn't even happen, I don't think, in even Martin Luther King, right? This peaceful, just self-organizing vigils, etc. And they're scared to death. That is raw political, cultural and political power. That's why they're at a 12, not a 8 or a 9, which they normally would be. But Megyn, they're irrational. If you've seen this coverage from the other, when it first happened, all the way till this morning, they have lost reason in talking about this.
Okay, so let me go into both of those rabbit holes. We're going to start with the freak out over Kimmel and his indefinite suspension. Here's just a small sample, SOT 12.
I mean, this is straight out of the authoritarian playbook.
When they appease the bully, they put all of us at risk.
Out of nowhere, remove a late-night talk show host and program who was sharing an opinion during a comedic monologue, I think should concern every single American.
Talk show hosts who are like modern Tom Paines.
You need to see what is happening right now. It is the systematic destruction of free speech in this country. This is a moment for the country to mobilize. This is a moment for all of us to be out on the streets protesting. This is a red alert moment. The days are getting darker.
I've also read a whole lot about authoritarian regimes. This is the playbook, folks. If you're not paying attention now and doing something about it, well, then you're going to have to sit down the rest of your life because democracy is being taken away.
Okay, there's the meltdown. That's just a small sample. We could be here all day playing their leftist freak out over poor Jimmy Kimmel. And what you said, though, is exactly right. They're worried about the vigils across the world. They're worried about the 62,000 applications with high school students and college students to join TPUSA. They know exactly where that's going to lead when those kids become voters in a couple of years for the high schoolers, and they're probably already registered for the college students. Not in a good place for Democrats. And so now what we're starting to see is there's nothing on our side that makes us look bad. Okay, so we talked about we didn't shoot him, we didn't infect the person who shot him. That was all MAGA. Jimmy Kimmel at the apex of that argument. And also, we're not celebrating Charlie's death. We're not. It's not happening. Okay, so you've got, let me just give you this woman who's said it on MSNBC she's their fact checker. She's like their disinformation, misinformation person, Brandy Zadrozny, the other day, SOT 18. Watch this.
I think if you look across media generally, you have seen a lot of people trying to grapple with Charlie Kirk's legacy and what that is as a right-wing agitator and as a provocateur and as, a strategist and the most important GOP figure besides Donald Trump, arguably ever. And so, or right now. And so there's a lot of grappling to do, but to suggest that the internet is cheering for this is just the opposite. Total opposite of what's actually happening.
It is horrible.
Okay, she's such a liar. This is only 25 seconds. Just a few examples. Here we are, SOT 20.
Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
Eye for an eye, bitch. I think the only thing that went wrong that day was that Trump wasn't standing behind him getting a secondhand bullet.
He was such a good person. Why did he get shot? What do you think we're gonna do? Honestly, y'all, he had it coming.
Charlie Kirk was a big advocate for the Second Amendment. It worked out well for him.
Oh my God. Keith Olbermann is just tweeting out, Sinclair can rot in hell along with Charlie Kirk. His tweet, last I checked, had 40,000 likes saying Charlie Kirk is rotting in hell. I mean, this is a sick group. And so they feel the need to go on MSNBC, Steve, and just deny it's happening, which is also driving people to our side.
100%. And by the way, as bad as the one you put up, and we could play hours of that, they have ones about Charlie's children, Charlie's widow. I mean, these people are depraved to a level. And that's why I say there's no compromise. There's nothing to compromise about. You can't give that a group hug. You can't sit down and debate it. The person that debated it and gave his life doing it with humility and humble and always say, bring the people up that disagree with me the most in the front line was Charlie Kirk. And they shot him like a dog and then celebrated it and mocked it. Okay? So there's nothing to compromise. There's nothing to compromise with. And they show you right there. They tell you exactly who they are. So all we have to do is figure out how to shut that down. And you're starting this already in the FBI. We're designating these transgender militias as nihilistic, units, right? Extremist units. So they do that. We're going to designate Antifa as, I think, an executive order by Charlie's funeral a terrorist organization to get all the tools in the toolbox. It's now time to take action, because you see right there, they'll lie to your face. Okay. The thing also, it's hidden. I want to make sure we bring this up, is that what they most fear is not so much Charlie Kirk, the political operative, but Charlie Kirk, the dedicated Christian nationalist. Charlie Kirk was a Christian, evangelical Christian, and he served when he just went to Korea in the last weekend of his life. Half of it was Turning Point and rallies about how to stand up to the political party that's controlled by the CCP that just won election there for the young people. The other half was spiritual, going to do spiritual, speeches and talks to the great evangelical population of young people in South Korea, which is one of the most Christian nations on earth. And so that's what they fear about Charlie Kirk. When they're looking at this, and they look at those vigils, and they look at that humility and the humble and the prayer, they see a political force that is a Christian political force. Nothing puts the fear into Wall Street and corporate America and the globalist, okay, as America as a Christian nation, based upon Judeo-Christian values, but a Christian nation. And that is what's freaking them out the most. That's why they're in meltdown. That's why they don't know what to do about this. And particularly as we sit there and go, we're going to be relentless. We're going to take your entire apparatus apart brick by brick, and we're not going to blink, and we're not going to stop.
We don't care about your claims of fascism either. They did all of this to us. They want to lecture us now on censorship, Steve? The Democrats? After the last 4 years we just went through with the Biden regime? I mean, do they think our memories are that short?
Hang on, I'm still banned. War Room, I'm still banned on every platform. We're banned on Facebook. We're banned on YouTube. We're banned. Yes, no, I'm banned on Twitter. We're banned. We're still banned everywhere. I don't complain about it, because that's the way they roll. And I say, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. These people are absolutely,
great. We'll play by your rules.
Total fascist. Yeah, exactly. So let's roll. I'm all for everybody like Spencer Cox and these people that want to sing Kumbaya and want to sit down and reason together. They're not reasonable people. They're radicals. We cannot reason with them. We've tried that. Charlie Kirk gave his life trying to reason with them. Okay? It can't happen. When a Charlie Kirk can't make it happen, it can't happen. So now it's time to get very focused and play Smash Mouth. And that's what we need to do. And we can do it nonviolently. Like, I'm so proud of people. No riots, no burning of cars, nothing. Just the power of Christian vigil, right? And Christian remembrance of a man that I say will be deemed eventually as a modern day Christian martyr.
Yes. When Charlie was in South Korea, he gave like a little press conference after a speech he gave there. And he's like towering over everybody. Right? So he's like 6'4". The South Korean men tend to be a lot shorter. And they're all looking up at him. And one guy is like, oh, how about the fact that you're a racist? And Charlie was like, how am I racist? And basically dismantled the guy's argument by saying, you tell me that one thing. If 30,000 Muslim Palestinian come into South Korea, is South Korea still South Korea? And they're like, oh, good point. Like, that was part of his power, right? Like, South Korea is worried about that too. Like, he was able, and he said it so boldly, Steve. I mean, he really did say all the things that you think, but you don't say. He crossed all those lines. And that's why the left is now saying he was a racist. He was all these terrible things. It's like, because they won't give it the proper context. And the people who actually totally agree with that obvious statement are even silently or not silently now saying, no, we're on Team Charlie.
He brought the people that disagreed with him most up to the front of the line all the time. I used to tell Charlie, I said, I don't know how you do the college. I know you started that. I was there actually for one of his, I think his first job was for Breitbart when I ran it after Andrew passed away. But the people that had helped finance that, I think, were his first big donors. And I would often ask Charlie, I said, man, given everything you got going on and, all the podcasts and the shows, and, he's on Real America's Voice with us, I said, and everything else organizationally in the ground game and everything you have over at TP Action, how do you still do this? And he just says, I have to do it. That's my calling. Remember, Utah Valley was a week ago? He was supposed to be at Colorado State last night. They had 10,000 people that showed up. The power of what you're seeing spontaneously. The power that you're seeing, what I call self-organizing, is what's put the real fear. That's the real fear in corporate America, in the corporatist Wall Street and the radical left. That's what they fear most. That's what MSNBC cannot stop the power of that, and that's why they're freaking out.
It was incredibly brave of Charlie because he was suffering increasing death threats for going on these college campuses. Steven Crowder gave an interview, I think it was on Piers the other night, saying he blames himself, which is very sweet, and he should not blame himself, but he blames himself because he originated the college campus thing, or at least was one of the OGs, with his Change My Mind segments, the predecessor to the Prove Me Wrong segments Charlie would do. And he stopped doing it because of the threat, because of it just got too dangerous. And he was blaming himself unnecessarily, but because he felt like he should have been more outspoken about it so that Charlie knew. But I think Charlie did know the danger. This is like going into the lion's den, going onto these campuses. And it's so represented by what we're seeing right now on places like CNN and MSNBC. Those are their emissaries. That's where they get their news and their information. And from this disinformation lady on MSNBC who's saying, oh, no one's celebrating the death. And from places like The Nation, by the way, this is where Elie Mystal does his writing, who's the favorite guest over on MSNBC. He was like practically Joy Reid's co-host, a vile racist. And this is what they wrote in the wake of Charlie's death on The Nation. Elizabeth Spires, an absolute cretin, writes, Charlie Kirk's legacy deserves no mourning. There's no requirement to take part in this whitewashing campaign, and refusing to join in doesn't make anyone a bad person. It's a choice to write an obit that begins, Joseph Goebbels was a gifted marketer and loving father to 6 children. He had children, meaning Charlie, as do many vile people. I don't know if Kirk was a good father, but if he was, that does little to mitigate the damage he did to other people's children. I can only hope for the sake of his kids that they have role models who will teach them that it is wrong to profit off of the dehumanization of people because of who they are. That's what we're up against. You're right, Steve. You don't lock arms with that person. You don't try to persuade that person. With all due respect to Charlie, you don't invite that person to the front of the line. That person's not reachable.
They're telling us who they are. Let's believe them this time, and let's take action on it. We need political action. We need, actually, since we're in charge of the government now, we need government action. We need to do this, and it's got to be uncompromising.
How far should it go? Like, what should Brendan Carr, the FCC, do next?
I think they ought to go through. I think it ought to be, first off, at the SEC, at the FEC, Federal Elections Commission, the Communication Commission. I think it's got to be a huge investigation of things like The View, all of it. They're in-kind payments to the Democrat Party. These things are working under broadcast licenses, different than cable or streaming or something like that. It's totally different.
Yes.
It's a different set of rules.
We've just been asleep at the switch.
I think the Ellisons ought to pull Colbert today. Send a signal that yes. And by the way, they'll save money because he's going to lose $40 million in a year. You pay out his contract. It can't be worse than $40 million. Just pay it out. He's only got, 9 months left. They ought to pull him today, or we ought to start an investigation in a major suit by the federal government for an in-kind contribution that I would argue you can go back over time and see that it's $400 million. They did the analysis the other day. I think is like 600 Democrat politicians and 2 or 3 Republicans, and those are like Liz Cheney and those people coming on to crow about sending guys like me to prison. So it's fine. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But there's rules and regulations about that. We have to enforce these, and we have to enforce them in a tough way with a sense of urgency right now. And I say maximalist strategy. You take it to the absolute outer edge of what you can do regulatorily, because that's all they understand. They don't understand anything else. All the phoniness they're all First Amendment guys now, right? They're all about the First Amendment.
Please.
They never cared about the First Amendment. All they care about is control.
And by the way, the First Amendment, the government did not force anything here. They didn't. He was threatening, but he didn't actually do it. This is a Disney call because Jimmy Kimmel refused to apologize. Jimmy Kimmel was going to go out there and attack MAGA again. And that's why Kimmel got indefinitely suspended. But by the way, there is a role for government in this particular lane. That's why we have the Federal Communications Commission. Brendan Carr does have a responsibility to make sure the airwaves are consistent with the public interest. Is it to have some guy going out there and stirring up tempers and inflame the public at a time when MAGA is at its most vulnerable, its most grievous? No, it's not. So spare me, because there actually is a government role to be played here. Speaking of government, this is a very interesting development. There's a report today that AOC may be getting ready to run for president, that her team is looking, and I know you've said she could potentially do it, but her team is looking at maybe Senate. Chuck Schumer is, I think, going to be 78 when he runs for re-election. That's really old, and the Democrats seem to get that now. Or she might just go for president. And at the same time, this happened today. The Republicans in the House introduced a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. It condemns the murder, and it praises Charlie as a courageous American patriot who boldly lived out his faith with conviction, courage, and compassion. Calls on all Americans, regardless of race, party affiliation, or creed, to reject political violence, recommit to respectful debate, uphold American values, and respect one another as fellow Americans. Democratic leaders, including Hakeem Jeffries and nearly 100 rank-and-file Dems, voted for it. But 58 Dems voted no. 38 voted present. 22 didn't vote at all. Among those who voted no, the squad. Jasmine Crockett, Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and then there's AOC, who said the following.
Rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
And that's it. Then she voted no. She refused to join in the resolution. Consequences to her politically for doing that?
Well, she'll get a leg up on Newsom in the Democratic primary. I would love to have her run for president of the Democratic side. It's a contrast, right? What you see is what you get. If that's what you think can lead this country, is that where your values are? Is that what you think will continue to promote American freedom and liberty and ourselves as the greatest industrial power in the world? AOC, this shows you how frivolous they are. This shows you how they're not serious people. And they've controlled the media and they've controlled the apparatus, and they hate us for the fact that we're taking that apart and taking it away from them. That's where the hate's coming from. Because in the old days, you could jam down a Barack Obama out of nowhere down your throat, and you just had to accept it. They're in the business of jamming people down your throat, and they think they can jam AOC down your throat. Hey, I say bring it. I'm all for, we love democracy, because with the MAGA and the MAHA movement, we can't be beaten. You look at right now the shift of demographics in this country and the shift inside the states. We cannot be beaten. So if they want, please don't waste a Senate run. Throw up there and let her run for president. We love it. Let's do it.
You don't feel threatened by her at all, like if she got the nomination?
I do not feel threatened. I do not. Listen, she's a very crafty and cunning politician, but you see what she stands for and who she is. Let's take the best. If they Newsom and her, let's go. Let's roll. Give us your best shot.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen the right so mobilized as they are right now, and it came at a very, very high cost. But they are mobilized, and it's happening organically, not just nationally, but internationally. Our mission grows, our ranks are growing, and it's completely heartfelt. It's at a higher plane. It's evangelical. It's going to be unstoppable. That's how it feels today. Steve Bannon, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Megyn, thank you. Thank you for doing Charlie's show, tossing to you yesterday. Thank you for doing Charlie's show this week. Everybody appreciated it.
Oh, God, the honor was all mine. Only wish it weren't necessary. Up next, a powerful, powerful speaker who was dear friends with Charlie and was just feet away the day he was assassinated. Do not miss this. If you've ever Googled yourself, you know how many results contain your personal information. It's not by chance, and it is disturbing. Your info is available, your name, your address, phone number, financial info, income, legal and health history. It's not good. It can be sold and shared publicly without your consent. There are real risks here, including financial scams, identity theft, unfair targeting by insurance companies, and general safety risks. But I want to tell you about Incogni. These guys help you take control of your online privacy. You sign up, you allow them to act on your behalf, and they demand that data brokers delete your personal info. Now they've introduced something huge, custom data removals. With their unlimited plan, Incogni's privacy team gets your info taken down from any specific site. Right now, you can get 60% off an annual plan by heading to incogni.com/Megyn and using the code Megyn at checkout. It's risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Megyn, incogni.com/Megyn, code Megyn when you check out. You might think home security was just an alarm that goes off after a break-in, scaring the intruder off and getting a neighbor's attention if you're lucky. But that is a reactive approach. By the time an intruder is in your home, it's too late. Your feeling of safety is shattered, as is your actual safety. That's why real security should stop a crime before it even starts. So there is Simply Safe. Their system is designed to be proactive, not reactive. These guys use smart AI-powered cameras to identify threats lurking outside your home and immediately alert Simply Safe's professional monitoring agents. These agents intervene in real time before the break-in even begins. Join the more than 4 million Americans who trust Simply Safe with their home security every day. And with a 60-day money-back guarantee and no long-term contracts, Simply Safe earns your business by keeping you safe and satisfied every day. Visit simplysafe.com. That's SIMPLI safe.com/Megyn to claim 50% off a new system. That's simplysafe.com/Megyn. There is no safe like Simply Safe. We absolutely have to keep talking. It's more important now than ever. To cower, to hide, to go silent is not the answer. And all I can tell you is there is no fucking way I am canceling one stop on this tour. Not one stop. I'm going. I'm going to stand on these stages and I'm going to say all the things that we say all the time on this show. We're gonna make it safe for me. We're gonna make it safe for my team and my guests and you. We're going coast to coast and do something really important, which is say what's true and what's real to honor him. I really now more than ever would love to see you all face to face. God, I would love to see you face to face. I need to see you face to face. I am doing this tour and I would love for you to join me. MegynKelly.com for the tickets. Joining me now, a close friend and faith mentor of Charlie Kirk's. Frank Turek is a Christian author and the president of crossexamined.org. He was with Charlie on the horrific day of his assassination in Utah last week, and he joins me now to honor Charlie's legacy and talk about that terrible day. Frank, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Megyn, first, let me thank you for going out to Phoenix yesterday. It meant so much to the team there that you would go all the way out there and be with them. It was
you're so sweet, Frank. It
Thank
was
you.
an honor. It truly was an honor. And they gave me a shirt just like the one you're wearing now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something to put it on. It does feel like it makes you feel a little closer to Charlie, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I'm so tired, Megyn, as I know you are, of the left calling Charlie Kirk a fascist. Megyn, when was the last time you heard a fascist say, if you disagree, come to the front of the line, I'll give you the microphone?
Right on.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Fascists kill people. They don't hear out their opponents. The guy that pulled the trigger was the fascist.
Frank, can I ask you a question related to that? I think, I've been thinking a lot about this. I and many other people on the right have been talking, and I'm convinced that the reason Charlie was targeted, because there are many people in conservative media that say all the same things that Charlie said and fought for all the same things, but I'm convinced that the reason he was targeted is because the faith quotient was so high, which made him more powerful than everyone. Like, it's no accident he was elevated above us all in that way to where he attracted the attention in a way that has inspired the world, but also the negative attention.
Yeah, I agree. There is a certain amount of aura that came with Charlie in terms of not just his conservative politics, but the fact that he was sold out for Jesus. And that was really his focus. In fact, just a few weeks ago, Megyn, he said, politics is peanuts compared to Jesus. Because without Jesus, look, all of us are going to check out of here in a few decades. What then, right? Politics is temporary. Jesus is eternal. And there's nothing more important than eternity. And so Charlie, while he loved politics, as I do, as I know you do, and realized it's very important to a functioning society to have the right laws in place, even from a Christian perspective, Megyn, because I hear people saying, oh, Christians, you ought not get involved in politics. Since when are we supposed to allow the atheists to run the country? And if
that's how we got into this mess.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell pastors who say, oh, I just talk about the Bible, I just preach the gospel, I don't get involved in politics. And I say to them, if you think the gospel is important, you better think politics are important, because politics affects your ability to preach and live the gospel. If you don't think so, go to some of the countries I've been to. I've been to Iran, I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to China. You know, you can't have a church in Iran, not legally anyway. They can't listen to the Megyn Kelly podcast in Iran, not legally anyway. Why? Because politically they've ruled it out. So politics, while it's not our first calling as Christians, it's important because it protects our first calling, which is to go out and preach and live according to the principles that Jesus wanted us to live by.
How did you and Charlie become friends? I listened to your whole podcast the other day, and I was fascinated by the backstory, but tell us here.
Charlie happened to be in Washington State, of all places, probably in like 2020 or 2019. And for some reason, one of the TV shows that I do happened to be on public access up there in Seattle. And I don't know why, but it was. And he looked me up on the internet and he watched a lot of my videos, because I go to college campuses quite a bit as well. I co-wrote a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And so I go to colleges, high schools, and churches and present that. And I answer a lot of questions. And so Charlie was intrigued because that's what he was doing. And so my colleague just dug out the email that he wrote us back. It was January 18th, 2020, just before COVID. And he essentially said, hi, I've been watching all of Frank's videos. They've really helped me and helped me do what I do here at Turning Point USA. I'd like to meet. And from that point on, we were fast friends. And what was happening over this summer in particular, Megyn, was he really took the college tour that was coming up here in the fall extremely seriously. And he's been studying all summer for this. And so he and I met on 4 occasions this summer. I'd fly to Phoenix and we'd spend 2 or 3 days. We'd go on these long walks. We'd sit in his office. We'd get in a conference room. Not just me, but other guys. Blake yesterday on the podcast was part of this. Danny Phillips, another researcher, was part of it. Of course, the great Mikey McCoy. What a hero the other day Mikey was. Let me tell you, Megyn, that kid is amazing.
That's this young, fresh-faced kid who Charlie said, don't go to college. He met him just as he was going off to college. He said, don't go to college. Come with me. I'm your college.
Megyn, Mikey McCoy was a hero on September 10th. If we have time, I'll tell you what he did. I mean, it's just amazing. In any event, it's not just me, but other people poured into Charlie. And the only thing that surpassed Charlie's intellect was his humility, Megyn. You know, it's hard to be a mentor to somebody who's smarter than you. And Charlie is much smarter than me. But I knew a few things he didn't know. And so he would always want to get together and go through these hard questions that he was going to get from students, particularly when it related to the evidence for Christianity and issues in the Bible, that kind of thing. And so that's what we'd get together and do. And we'd go on long walks. He'd sit there, take notes. He'd speak into his phone. Oh, that's a good insight. Let me take, And I learned a lot from him, just as much as he learned from me, I learned from him.
That was a brand new insight to me, because as good as Charlie was on these college campus appearances, it never dawned on me that he prepared. I don't know why it never dawned on me. I just thought he speaks for a few hours a day and he gives so many speeches. Maybe that's the prep. But no, he studied up for these things.
Oh, he studied big time and he was ready. I mean, he would have, he almost sounded like you, Megyn, at one point. He was talking to one kid about illegal immigration, and he started citing the U.S. Code. U.S. Code 13. And I'm going, who is he, Megyn Kelly all of a sudden? How does he know all this stuff, right? Because he had studied it. He was ready for almost every possible question, every possible contingency. He was ready.
Yeah. He just yesterday, sitting at his desk, in front of Charlie's microphone. He's still got the Glenn Beck golden microphone that Glenn got from Rush right now. And also there's two little toys there because his daughter would give him two little toys and he would take them, and she liked to see them on the air. So he would always show these toys that she'd give him. There are two sitting there. And then there is a copy of the U.S. Constitution. And I said to his team, did he always have it at his desk? And they said, oh, he always had it on him. And some of those clips of him challenging people on their knowledge of the Constitution, whoever made the foolish mistake of asking Charlie if he understood the Constitution, learned the hard way that they had stepped on a rake.
Oh, yeah. And he had so much of it memorized, too. He said, no, that's Article 2. Article 2. You know this? Oh, yeah, he knows it. Yeah.
He loved it. Yeah. So just evidence of his preparation, his devotion to being great so that he could be heard and he could be compelling. You know, the goal truly was to change people's minds, to actually, have them hear him past all the noise and all the nonsense that was already out there about Charlie, so they could connect and maybe listen and maybe possibly vote Trump or, rework their worldview that was being foisted on them in college.
The last walk we went on, Megyn, was Monday night. So the terrible day was Wednesday. And so we spent some time Monday, and then we both went to dinner. He wanted to have dinner with the family, he's a family man. So he said, hey, can you come back at about 8? We'll go on a walk. I said, yeah, okay. So I came back down at 8, and I texted him. I said, okay, I'm about here. He said, coming out. And then a minute later, he said, shortly, Gigi just got up. So he was obviously taking care of the baby, taking care of his daughter, because that's the kind of person he was. And then we went on this long walk, and there were two major issues that kept coming up that he wanted to be better at. He wanted to be better at explaining the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus, because he and I always spoke that if you want to show that Christianity is true, you only need to establish two facts, Megyn. If these two facts are true, then everything else falls into place. The first fact is God exists, and the second fact is Jesus rose from the dead. If God exists and Jesus rose from the dead, game over, Christianity's true. So we talked a lot about how, he said, I want to persuade kids. I want to show them, despite the skepticism they're being taught in college, I want to show them that the evidence for the resurrection is so good that they'd have to have more faith to not believe it than to believe it. And so we talked a lot about that. And then the second issue we spent a lot of time on is he really wanted America and young people in America to get back to marriage and family. Because I think you probably even covered this on your podcast at some point about that survey that came out maybe 2 weeks ago, Megyn, where it looked at Trump voters, males and females, and Harris voters, males and females, and where they put marriage and family on their priority list. You remember that?
Yeah.
And the men who voted for Trump had marriage number 1. I think the women who voted for Trump were about 5 or 6. But the women that voted for Harris, it was like 12 out of 13. Marriage is something they have no interest in. And he wanted to communicate to the world the beauty of marriage and the beauty of family. And of course, if you take care of the family, you take care of the country, because the immune system for the country is the biological 2-parent family. If you keep them together, everything else will take care of itself.
This is something I'm really wrestling with. I had this long section we release this AM update podcast in the mornings now. It's only like 16 minutes long usually, and it's the headlines of the day for people who don't have 2 hours to listen to the show. And we had a section in there this morning that I then removed. I taped it, I voiced it, I wrote it, and I took it out. It was about this Daily Mail article that got into the disgusting porn habits of the shooter. And I wanted to put it in there because it's so vile. I think this man needs to be exposed for just how awful he is and was. This isn't a crazy person. This is an evil person. And that's my belief. And I couldn't do it. At the end, I just said, it's so dark. I can't put this in a morning podcast where people haven't even had their coffee. They're sitting there driving to school with their kids and so on. So I took it out. And I'm not going to get into the details here, but the sum and substance of it is this kid was all over, this young man, pornography, and the most vile kinds of pornography that you can look at online. And it occurred to me, Frank, Charlie also constantly talked about the dangers of pornography and urged young men not to go there, while he urged them to get married, to even consider saving themselves for their wives, to have a family, to take care of their family, to be the breadwinner, to make their lives, the lives of their wives, easy and as carefree financially as possible so that they could worry about other things. And it occurred to me that this man who shot Charlie was the living opposite of Charlie. Like one was a devil and one was an angel walking the earth at the same time with the most vastly different ideals and character, and just the incredible misfortune that their paths would line up, that Charlie would be in Utah where this man lived and trigger this sense of thinking so that he could steal him. And that leads me to my question to you as a man of faith, and as I am a woman of faith, but you know your Bible much better than I do. How could a loving God allow that devil to take this angel from us?
That is the hardest question to answer, Megyn. But one thing we do know is that it doesn't mean that God doesn't care, because his own son, who was innocent, was put on a cross to save us from our own iniquities. Because an infinitely just God can't allow any of us to go unpunished. Otherwise, he wouldn't be infinitely just. And look, we're all fallen. We all need a savior. None of us have lived the perfect life like Jesus has. But Jesus did live the perfect life, so he's our substitute. He takes the wrath of an infinitely just God upon himself, so you, me, and everyone else who's committed sins can be forgiven of those sins and also given the righteousness of God. That's why it's the greatest story ever told. In fact, a kind of the shortest summary I've ever heard of reality, Megyn, is this: God created it, we broke it, Jesus fixed it. God created it, we broke it, Jesus fixed it. We're all broken. Obviously, what this shooter did is horrific evil. But of course, we've all done evil ourselves, maybe not to that extent. I like to ask audiences, because I do this a lot on college campuses, they'll say, if there's a good God, why doesn't he stop all the evil in the world? And I normally say this: maybe because if he did, he might start with you and me, because we do evil every day. You ever notice when we complain about evil, we're always complaining about somebody else doing it? Hey, God, why don't you stop him? Why don't you stop her? We never say, God, why don't you stop me? And I ask audiences, I say, if God were to stop evil at midnight tonight, would you still be alive at 12:01? I wouldn't be, Megyn. So although we can ask questions, why did God allow this to happen? We know that God can bring good from it, just like he brought good from the crucifixion of his own son. And sometimes we can't see the good, but there's always a ripple effect, Megyn, always a ripple effect. We can see some of the ripples right now. Have you seen the nation begin to awake from its apathy regarding God, regarding Jesus, regarding love, and saying, this, we can't stand for this anymore. We have to do something. There's a spiritual awakening going on. And if you were to ask Charlie right now, would you give your life in order to awaken millions to the truth of what Jesus came to do, to save them for eternity? Would you do it? He would say, sign me up, because that was his mission anyway. Of course, he'd hate, obviously, to leave Erica and those two beautiful kids, but he would know the ripple effect. He would say, I would give my life for this. That was what he was all about, Megyn. He was Jesus number one. Everything else was secondary.
I know, it's true. I mean, I think when I listen to you, I think of a soldier. I think of, a Navy SEAL or a Ranger or a Green Beret, and they know the danger is immense before they jump out of this helicopter or go into this compound and storm, an ISIS-infected place. They know they might die. They're very aware that they might die, and they do it anyway because they're courageous, and there are some things greater than self that they're willing to sacrifice for. And I see Charlie that same way, because he knew this was dangerous. I mean, he knew this had grown dangerous beyond a point where I think the rest of us expect it to be.
You're right. In fact, about 6 months ago, something happened in the news where someone prominent, I can't remember the exact situation, but somebody prominent got shot. And so I texted him, I said, Charlie, I hope you've increased your security detail, And he said, I have. I know they want me dead. Now, I don't think he had a specific they in mind, Megyn, but he knew that there was hostility. I mean, he got death threats all the time. And he knew there was hostility out there. And in fact, when we were driving into that event, this is the first event I've gone to a college campus with Charlie. He said, Frank, if you can come help me the first couple of days, could you stay an extra day and come with me to the first event? I said, of course. So we're driving in, Megyn, and his team has drones up looking at the crowd from above, and they text him some video. And there's thousands of people there an hour before the start. And I said, Charlie, I don't like this place. There's too many buildings. And but he shrugged it off. He knew there were thousands of people there. And he knew in order to minister to people, you can't completely isolate yourself. It's just like love. You can't keep your heart in a box. You got to give it away. If you keep it in a box, you'll protect it. It won't get hurt, but you won't love anyone. And Charlie loved people. He wanted to go out and interact with them. He wanted them to bring whatever question or objection they had to him so he could try and persuade them to the truth. And he knew that meant risk. And
do you think he was scared at all? Do you, like that morning, did he have any sort of a premonition?
No, Megyn. He was, we got out of the car after we prayed, and so many people out there. There were all these kids from TPUSA lined up, and you take pictures with them. And then we're about to walk in. It was kind of an amphitheater, and you were walking in from the front of it, like right toward the crowd. And he's just going, "Welcome to the big leagues." It was like a Trump rally.
Yeah.
I mean, people were chanting USA, USA, and Charlie starts flipping hats, and I'm just standing there, with my phone going, this is amazing. And then somebody hands me hats. So I give my phone to Danny there, the guy that you had on the podcast yesterday, and he starts filming. And so I'm flipping hats,
Right. You're in on the action.
Yeah, it was just such a festive atmosphere.
We actually have a little tape of it, Frank. Let me show it in Stop 50.
Wow, look at that. Beautiful. Look at that. Just give him a little taste.
This is inside Charlie's car. Now he's out of it throwing hats. Wow, huge crowd. It's really incredible, Frank, because I remember Charlie doing these events, and you get like a handful of people who would show up and see him. And it had grown, as Andrew's been saying, into tent revivals.
It has. He was kind of a cross between Billy Graham and Rush Limbaugh.
Yes. Yes, that's perfect. Exactly right.
It was like people who, even if they weren't Christians, loved him. And even if people weren't conservatives, but they were Christians, loved him. Everybody on the secular and Christian right loved him.
Yep. And in the middle, I think, too. He had the middle.
Yeah.
He didn't have the left.
Yeah, no, but he was reaching out to the left. Can I say one other thing about this, Megyn? I think the biggest mistake that our country is making and has made in quite a long time is for us to think that love means approval. Love does not mean approval. I mean, you have kids, I have kids. If you approve of everything your kid wants to do, are you loving? No, of course not. If you approve of evil they want to do, you're not loving, you're enabling them. And in the passage that everybody reads at their wedding, but hardly anybody obeys, the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, the great chapter on love, the Apostle Paul says, love always protects. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing. Love rejoices in the truth. Love always perseveres. If you want to love someone, you have to tell them the truth, even if they don't like it. And love means seeking what's best for them according to the will of God. Not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. In fact, as the great Thomas Sowell said, he said, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear.
So true.
And how often do we tell people, Megyn, what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear? Because we don't want them mad at us, right? And so we say, okay, I'm with you. Whatever you want to do is fine. And we think that's love. That is not love. That is enablement. And I was just at a university just 2 nights ago because Charlie would want us to continue to go to these universities. And a young person got up and basically said, well, you don't agree with me, so you don't love me. And I'm like, you don't agree with me? I mean, disagreement is not hate. Disagreement is just, you have a different opinion about something than I have. Let's talk about it and work it out. And that's what Charlie was doing. And yet somebody who claimed he was a hater shot him in the neck. Who's the hater?
You were steps away in that tent when it happened. Did you know in the moment that it was a gunshot?
Yes. And I had worried about this, Megyn, even long before this date. And I always said to myself, if I'm ever with Charlie and they take a shot at him, what am I going to do? Because I was in the Navy. In the Navy, you always, as all military, you always have emergency procedures. You think about stuff before it happens, and you decide before it happens. So you don't even have to think when it happens. So when I heard the shot, the first thing I thought was go to Charlie, but his security detail was right there, Megyn. And so I took 2 steps toward Charlie. I was maybe 25 feet off his right elbow, sorry. And I started heading toward him, and then the security team was there. And so, okay, we got Charlie. So then I ducked thinking, okay, there's going to be more shots. And they went out one side behind the tent. I went out the other side and started running with them to the car. And we had this SUV lined up, the SUV we took in, the one you just saw in that film clip a couple minutes ago. And they got him on the right side of the car. They opened the back door and kind of drug him in, and I couldn't get in either door, so I popped the gate open and got in the back and climbed over the seat. And so his Justin was driving. Dan, his main security guy, had the GPS in the passenger seat. Rick, right to my left, was on the head side of Charlie. He was dragging him across the seat. And Brian was in to my right where the door was. And Charlie, as you know, Megyn, 6'4", so too tall. We couldn't close the door. Just go, let's go. So we just started driving, and it's not an emergency vehicle. There's no sirens, there's no lights. We're just beeping the horn. And I don't know how Brian stayed in the car, because we're just yanking and banking trying to get to this hospital that's like a little over 4 miles away. And as we're heading there, maybe halfway there, there's an ambulance coming toward us, going toward the venue. And we're should we stop? No, just keep going. Just the doctor later said that was the right thing to do. And we're trying to stop the bleeding. And I said, we got to start CPR. I'm looking down at Charlie. I mean, he's a foot from me. His face is a foot from me. And his eyes are fixed, Megyn. He's not looking at me. He's looking into eternity. He was already with Jesus. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, says the New Testament. And but we had to start CPR anyway, so we did. I just started pounding on him, trying to get him to respond. Couldn't do it. Got to the hospital and just ran him right in through the emergency room, and they had a team there, and they started pounding on him and started putting blood in him, and they did get a pulse, but later the doctor said that's just because he was healthy. But the the shot was catastrophic. Let me just put it that way. We couldn't have done anything.
He died instantly.
You had first aid there. He was killed instantly. The only comfort is that he didn't experience any pain, according to the doctor. He was just taken out.
What did the doctor say when he came
What's
out?
that?
What did the doctor say when he came out?
Well, there was one doctor that basically said, okay, we have a pulse. So we're all praying out loud. We're like, come on, Lord, save it. Come on. Give us a sliver of hope here. And we're praying out loud in the car on the way there. And then they brought him into surgery. And about, I'd say a half hour later, the head surgeon came out and said he's dead. And that's when the great Mikey McCoy showed up. Actually, he was there just before that happened. And 23 years old. He's calling the vice president. He's calling Erica. He's sending a plane to get Erica. He's talking. He's asking the doctor real hard questions. He's shaking a little bit, but he knows what he needs to do. He said, Charlie would want me to do this. And he just took over. I couldn't be more proud of that man. Love that man. 23 years old.
Very impressive guy. We spent some time with him yesterday in the audience, got to see him, meet him on the show. I've been wondering since last Wednesday, how are the guards? Do you know? They must be so shaken up.
Yeah, that whole day, I just kept going, hugging him, saying, this is not your fault. I'm telling you, Megyn, any one of those guys would have taken a bullet for Charlie. They loved him. They would have. And they're professionals. Most of them have military background or at law enforcement background. They would have died for Charlie like Jesus died for us. They would have done it. And, you know, I'd like to think I would have done it too, but I can't be the Apostle Peter and say, oh, Lord, I'll never deny you. And then I would. You know, I don't know. I'd like to think I'd have done the right thing if I had a chance to, but he was like a son to me, Megyn. That's why I had to be in that car. Imagine you're God forbid, one of your children gets shot. You're not going to stay behind and, I'll see you at the hospital. No, I had to be in that car.
I know you had your phone on and your son was hearing all of this too. So, he must have been traumatized just listening to it all.
Yeah, it was my son and daughter-in-law. He's 35 years old, and I was FaceTiming them because they love Charlie. And I was just, first I was FaceTiming my wife, and then I said, let me call Spencer. And so I started FaceTiming him.
During the event?
During the event, yeah, both during the event. And then when the shot rang out, I just, as I say, started heading toward the car, and I just put the phone in my back pocket. I didn't turn it off. I just, instinctively. And by the time I got to the hotel, I pulled it out. They were still there. So they heard the whole thing.
Do you know why the roofs of the buildings were not protected?
I wish I knew, Megyn. I wish I knew. As I understand it, that was the university police's role.
That's my understanding too.
This is Butler, PA all over again, isn't it?
Yep.
Like what's
there does need to be a real investigation as to why they weren't patrolling that roof. The local PD or the campus police, whoever had the responsibility, but that's my understanding as well.
I hope Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the folks, the local people in Utah will look into that, because somebody obviously dropped a really big ball there. And okay, make a mistake once, maybe twice. You guys haven't learned from this kind of thing? This was nationally news a year ago.
There's no excuse that it was a failure of imagination. You didn't need imagination. You had an example 14 months earlier. So, I really would love to hear answers from that team on what happened, like why. I'm going to guess understaffing, but we'll have to wait and see.
And the security team itself, Megyn, they hated amphitheaters. Why? because any shooter could be elevated above Charlie.
But Charlie couldn't get these huge crowds indoors, right? That's my understanding. Like the crowds were just too big. There was no room on these campuses adequate.
No room on the campus adequate. And also Charlie loved people so much that he wanted to attract people walking by. See, you don't get that indoors. So when you're out on the quad, just passerbys will get sucked into the conversation.
Because that's how it started. That's how it started back when he only had a handful and grew by doing exactly that. Without divulging any confidences, have you spent time with Erica? I confess I had the honor of spending some time with her yesterday, and I'll just say this, utterly amazed by her. Amazed by her.
Well, multiply that by 10 for me, because that Friday night speech, Megyn, that may have been the most inspirational 30 minutes I've ever witnessed.
How did she do it? How is she that strong a person? Did you know that before this?
No, I didn't know it. I mean, in my life, I've spent very little time with Erica. I mean, Charlie introduced me a few times, hello, that kind of thing. The only time I spent with her was with other people the night of the murder. We were at that hospital for probably 6 or 7 hours after the murder. And I would say Erica got there maybe 3 hours after the murder, something like that. And of course, she had to have a long talk with the surgeons, and then she had to go see Charlie and had to do a number of things. And when she was done with Charlie and we were about to head out, we were changing cities essentially. And of course, Mikey arranged it all. She came out into the hallway and I was just standing there. I was standing in scrubs for, well, you can imagine why I couldn't wear my clothes. And she saw me and just came up to me and she said, he loved you and he was doing what he loved to do when he died. And we just hugged one another and then.
She's comforting you.
Yeah, I know. I was like, and then she said something about making sure her husband's legacy continued. And
in the moment, she was cognizant of that.
In the moment, she had just seen Charlie dead. She comes downstairs. It's basically, let's go. And then they roped off the vehicle that we took out of there as a crime scene. I don't know why. It wasn't part of the crime scene, really. So we couldn't get into the vehicle until the FBI cleared it. And it happened that Charlie, in the back seat below him, between these two bucket seats, was my computer bag. So everything, I couldn't go anywhere. My wallet was in there. I wasn't going anywhere anyway, but I had to go in and get that out. And so when they finally cleared it, I got into the car and I pulled out my bag, and draped over my bag was Charlie's necklace that had a cross and medallions on it. And I had heard they were looking for that. And so cop was like, oh, we've been looking for that. I said, I got it. So I just took it.
I don't understand this. I saw the necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Erica's wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a cross on it, and it had a St. Michael's medal.
Mm-hmm.
St. Michael.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, St. Michael, he's the one who's supposed to protect us in battle, defend us against the wickedness and snares of the devil. It's like, I don't get it. And I don't know why I'm putting it all on St. Michael as opposed to Jesus. And, he was wearing a cross. He was wearing a St. Michael medal. I just feel like if I went out in front of a crowd wearing a cross and a St. Michael's medal, I would feel next to invincible. And not only was he shot and killed, he was shot and killed around the neck, just exactly where the necklace was. I know what you said about, God sacrificed his own son, but I just feel like This doesn't make sense to me. I'm angry. I'm mad at God.
I get it. I certainly get it. And it's okay to be mad at God. Read the Psalms, right? Sometimes the Psalms are going, hey, God, we're doing okay down here. Where are you? Right? And it's perfectly legitimate to question God. I mean, Job did. It's perfectly legitimate. God can take it, but just don't blaspheme God. Just don't say, I'm no longer a believer. I just want to know God. I want to know why this happened. Now, when people ask me, why did this happen? I say, well, I know why it happened in general. We live in a fallen world. None of us are guaranteed 80, pain-free years, right? And if Christianity is true, people don't really die. They just change location. They go from this life to the next life, and it's up to God when that happens. Why did God allow Charlie to be killed? Why didn't our prayer in the car before protect him? Well, I don't know why, Megyn, but I know why I don't know why. I'm inside of time. I hardly know any of the past, very little of the present. I know none of the future. But maybe God allowing this to happen is going to set forth a ripple that we talked about earlier that's going to bring many to Christ, that many people are going to come to Christ around the world. And I mean, sometimes pain does that. Sometimes you only look up when you're on your back. I don't know about you, but when everything's going really great for me, I tend to forget about God. And so pain and suffering can wake us up. As C.S. Lewis famously said, that pain is God's megaphone to arouse a morally deaf world. And a lot of times we're deaf. Notice that we're not deaf anymore. Notice that you and I are talking about eternal things right now. And hopefully people are interested in it now because of the example of one man and now the example of his wife who's going to rule the world, Megyn. I mean,
she's a Khaleesi-like figure.
Oh, she's unbelievable. I just couldn't believe what she said the other day.
Yeah.
And so good is going to come from this. God can redeem evil. There's a passage in the second letter to the Corinthians where the Apostle Paul's talking about suffering, and he says this, Megyn. He says, our light and momentary afflictions are achieving for us a greater weight of glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, for what is seen is temporary. We fix our eyes on what is unseen, for what is unseen is eternal. And there's a lot right now, Megyn, going on that's eternal that we might not see. But a lot of people are coming into the kingdom now. I'm seeing it on my comments. I got people in Denmark going, I'm an atheist. I was an atheist. Now I'm a Christian because of Charlie Kirk.
Same.
People in Australia, people all over the world are waking up because of this tragedy. Did God want it to happen? No. Did God allow it to happen? Yes. And he can bring good from it, even good we can't see right now.
Do you think Charlie knows? When I saw the announcement from Turning Point, 62,000 now college and high school chapters applied for. They only had 2,000 total between college and high school 8 days ago. Now they another 62,000. And I just saw an article this morning in the paper talking about the number of trans-identified youth now in Gen Z at all-time highs. This young, vulnerable population has been brainwashed into thinking that this is something they should mess with, their gender. It's so pernicious. It's evil. And I look at Gen Alpha, they say born after 2006 is when we start Gen Alpha. And that's my kids. And I see it, Frank. They're not falling for this stuff. I think Gen Alpha is going to be the answer to Gen Z and what we've done to them and help hopefully set them straight. And I think they're part of, and that tail end of Gen Z are the ones who are applying for these applications at Turning Point. And my daughter said to me, as I said, oh, if Charlie could only see it. And she said, he can see it, Mom. What do you make of it, Frank?
Oh, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of rejoicing in heaven right now. I mean, Charlie's a martyr. And it's been said before that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church, that this wakes us up. And let me also say that people like you and, of course, Charlie and others in the conservative world have spoken out clearly on the dangers of this gender ideology. And unfortunately, many pastors have not. And so let me commend you and Charlie and others to speak out about this issue. Why? Because we love people who are tempted to think this is the solution to their pain. It's not because we hate them, it's because we love them. Why is Charlie putting his life on the line, going to college campuses to talk about these things and offer these folks the microphone, if not for love, Megyn? What other reason? He doesn't, it's not for money. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need notoriety. He has that. He's not getting any of the big three that cause us often to make bad decisions, sex, money, and power. He's not getting any of that. He's doing it because he loves them. And he loves these kids. And he's got a generation of kids coming up in his own family. And he wants a bright future for them. So we love people. That's why we tell them the truth. And so if there's people watching this podcast right now.
I told the audience this when it happened, but we went to an Episcopalian service about a year ago. I did. I'm Catholic, but I went to an Episcopalian service, and we walk right in. There was a female pastor, and the whole homily was about transing children, how we need to accept them, how they need to be encouraged. There's nothing wrong with it. I got up and walked out. I don't even know what this is. What are you saying? This is exactly the opposite of what God would want. To be told, yes, you are born in the wrong body. I made a mistake on you. You should start cutting off healthy body parts in a way that will damage your enjoyment of life and your wellness forever. What? It's madness.
It is, Megyn. I mean, imagine if your daughter came to you and said, Mom, I'm a mermaid. Would you take her off the coast and drop her in the ocean? No, you'd say, honey, your mind is playing tricks on you. Let's get you some help, okay? You wouldn't affirm the delusion. If your daughter's struggling with anorexia, you wouldn't say, honey, you know what? I got to get you liposuction. You're absolutely right. You're overweight. You would say, no, dear, let me help you. Your mind is playing tricks on you. We have to get you some prayer. We have to get you some counseling. We have to get you maybe some medication. But I can't affirm something that's going to hurt you. That would not be loving. That would be enabling evil.
Charlie was super clear on all of that. We talked about that issue a lot behind closed doors and on the air. And unfortunately, he talked about it so much that he somehow got into the ear of Tyler Robinson. And, you know, while the left wants to pretend that that had nothing to do with the motive, it's very obvious he was living with somebody who was, quote, transitioning, which is not possible, from male to female, had all this furry culture connection, which is very linked to the trans community. And that man stole Charlie Kirk from the world. What do you make about the death penalty and his shooter?
Well, can I say something about the shooter first? I hope the shooter repents and accepts Jesus, number one. And then I hope he's executed. Because I'm pro-life. I know you are. But pro-life doesn't mean that a guilty murderer should not be punished. It means an innocent baby should not be punished. In fact, capital punishment is given by God to the government to protect innocent people from evil. This is in Genesis chapter 9. It's in Romans chapter 13, where Paul says that God gives the ruler the sword for a reason. The sword is a reference to capital punishment, to protect innocent people from evil, to punish wrongdoers. And when Jesus was before Pontius Pilate at his trial, Jesus said to Pilate, or I should say Pilate said to Jesus, "Don't you know I have the authority to kill you?" And Jesus said, "You do, but you get that authority from above." In other words, God delegates to governments capital punishment in order to protect innocent people from evil and to demonstrate that life is so valuable that if you wantonly take a life, your life will be taken because of that crime.
Frank, I only have a short time left, but can you give us a thought? What should we be thinking about going into this weekend? Sunday Mass, Charlie, his funeral. Give us a thought going into the weekend.
We should be thinking about the fact that we all have evil on our hearts. and we all have to repent of our sins, and we all have to have Jesus take our sins from us and give us his righteousness, and pray for everybody involved that they would repent and accept the gift Christ provides for us.
Frank, Charlie was so wise in many ways, and to choose you as his mentor is obviously one of them. Thank you so much, Frank Turek. Everybody check him out. You tell the audience how to find you, because everybody's going to want to find you right now.
Yeah, crossexamine.org, crossexamine with a D on the end of it.org. Also a podcast called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, the I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist podcast. And the YouTube channel is Cross-Examined, 2 words.
What a man you are. Thank you. Please come back.
Thank you, Megyn, anytime. And blessings on what you're doing. Keep calling the truth out. Keep getting it out there, Megyn. You're amazing at it. I got to say one more thing. I was talking to Charlie. I don't know if I mentioned this before. And I said, if there's one person in the public square I would never want to debate, it's Megyn Kelly. And he said, totally.
Oh, we'd have nothing to debate. We're on the same side on everything.
Well, I know, but if you took opposite positions, I would not want to debate you. You're so sharp. And I got to ask you a question from my wife. How are you de-aging? Okay. Is there some sort of Megyn Kelly?
You tell her. Okay. What? I do use Botox. I admit to it. And twice a year, I get a Fraxel. It's this laser procedure that really, truly does work miracles. Not the true miracles, but good miracles. And it's like no downtime.
Fraxel.
It's not cheap, but it works.
Okay.
Fraxel, twice a year.
Fraxel. Well, you're amazing, and you ought to release the Megyn Kelly youth cream, the de-aging cream. All right.
I will text you as soon as I have it. Thanks,
All right.
Frank.
God bless you. Thank you.
You too. Oh, lots of love. Wow, wow, wow. That's what we needed. That's what we needed to close out the week. All of it. Strong emotions. I'm feeling them. I'm sure you are too. Love you all. Lots to think about. And we'll see you Monday. The flu does not wait, and neither should you. When sickness hits, you don't want to be scrambling for medication. You want to be ready. You want peace of mind, knowing your family is protected. And that's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. These guys make it simple to stock up before you need it. So when the flu or a virus or any illness comes, you already have the treatments on hand. Right now, ivermectin and mebendazole are 25% off, starting at just $2 a capsule. Plus, save another 10% with code MEGAN10. They've got over 200 medications to choose from. Antibiotics, hydroxychloroquine, antivirals, NAD+, methylene blue, and more. They even offer emergency kits with essential medications, so you're prepared for anything. Just order online. They connect you with licensed doctors to get your prescriptions and ship your medications straight to your door. It's so convenient. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Megan and use code Megan10. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/Megan. Use the code Megan10 to get your discount when you check out. Protect your family, be prepared, and stay safe.